are like that.
Hello, Dr. Cinema. This is Patrick, and this is Andre. And today, it's just a Harry Potter discussion. Call it a diagnosis, call it a face off, whatever. So, let's start with talking about what our favorite film of the Harry Potter franchise is. You start.
I like number one the most. The original film, I don't know what it is about it, but it's really just the universe that it puts you in. I think it's really in depth. In part of it is just that it's the first one. It's the introduction to the Harry Potter universe. But I think the first and second one are really the two that I enjoy the most. And maybe their storylines aren't quite as good, but I actually think they are just as good, really. A lot of people don't like them. I don't know why. But it's really mainly just a universe that it puts you in, and like going really in depth into Quidditch and like seeing Harry practice Quidditch and like the chase with Harry Potter and Draco around Hogwarts is like amazing one because like you're first seeing people fly on broomsticks before, like, and you haven't seen that since The Wizard of Oz, and that was just a small cut scene of one person flying on a broomstick. But like here we have people flying on broomsticks and like in a battle in midair, and you get like a whole view of Hogwarts, which is just it's really beautiful. I like the rendition of Hogwarts in it as well. It's another reason. The first and second movies versions of Hogwarts. Most of you watching probably know that like Hogwarts changes through the movies. First and second, it's pretty much kind of the same, and then the third one, it's completely different. And that's why I don't like the third film very much, even though it's the most critically acclaimed. But yeah, really just the universe it puts you in, and you learn so much about Harry, and it really sets up the series really well. I think the way that like Voldemort reveals himself on the back of Quirrell's head is one of the coolest things ever. Like, whose idea was that? Obviously, it was Voldemort's, but I just think it's great. And then, oh, what else is there about the universe they have in there? Oh, the point system where Gryffindor wins at the end. I think that's just the coolest thing when like it looks like they're gonna lose, and then they get all. It's just Dumbledore just starts giving everybody points, which that point system doesn't make sense if you look at it. Super arbitrary, just like Dumbledore was a Gryffindor, and he's just like, screw it, we're way behind, but I'm gonna give you guys like 300 points. Here you go. Oh shoot, we're down by 5. Neville, here's 5 points. But it's still super cool. You know, Ron riding a chess piece, like that's amazing. There's just so much in that first film that's just great. Like, I don't really remember watching it in theaters because I didn't, because I think I was like 2 or 3 or 4, I don't know. But I do remember like as a kid watching the first movie and just being like amazed and like, wow, this is a whole world that's amazing.
All right.
It's my diagnosis.
What's your pick?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go a little bit with a different scenario. A little bit, I agree with Patrick in that it really introduces the universe. But I'm gonna actually say that my favorite film is gonna be the last Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. And the reason I say that is because I think while the first movie established the characters, the universe, the settings, I think we really see the full depth of what that's established throughout the movies in Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2. I think that we see all the secret things that we weren't expecting. For me, I was really surprised when we found out the whole situation with Snape and Lily and Harry and that whole scenario. And we really, I think, begin to see the depth of the characters that come in. We see a character who, I think in Neville Longbottom, we see a character throughout the films that's really viewed as incompetent, but then we really begin to see kind of his more heroic side to him through that. Also, I think the concept of the Horcruxes, the brothers, through the wand and through the story of the brothers and finding death, and I think that really just adds so much. That adds a part to the universe that you aren't really expecting, but I think it's something that was really well done, really well thought out. And I think that ultimately, I think it just really ended the series well. It ended on a note that like, here's the reason it ended for me on an emotional note, and I was emotionally tied to that end because for me, I was saying goodbye to something I grew up with, and that started with the first episode. But I think that the seventh episode wrapped it up so well. I thought it was a well-designed movie, well-written plot. The characters were well-established, and they had 6 movies to go off of it. And I think that really the seventh movie left me on an emotional note that I'll remember for a long time.
All right, it's time for my pick now. And since it's kind of funny because I'm sitting in the middle of these two, and I'm picking a movie that's like almost right in the middle of the damn thing. The fifth film, Order of the Phoenix. I picked that because the first 2 films, Stone and Chamber of Secrets, they're nice, more family-friendly-ish stories which are good for gathering the audience and gathering the fan base. But now you have to do something else. Prisoner of Azkaban, yeah, they did try to do a transition to a little bit darker stuff. Some parts they succeeds, but ultimately, it doesn't really do anything besides introduce Sirius Black. There are parts of Goblet of Fire I really like, but overall, Order of the Phoenix, I feel like it's the most balanced between getting the people that started as young people, who are now older, more invested in the franchises. We see our heroes take on the overhead threat, which is Voldemort being back, but like the Ministry of Magic saying, no, he's not back, But then you have a more immediate threat throughout most of the film, Umbridge, who's like, becomes teacher and then temporary head mistress. So you got 2 villains, but one's the one you really hate the most, and it's the one you battle constantly, because Harry Potter, yeah, he's supposed to be this chosen one, but he's also, again, a student, a kid, so you've got him dealing with 2 kinds of threats, and you got supporting characters who are coming into their own a little bit. I mean, Hermione Granger helps, like, set up Dumbledore's army and helps Harry, like, gather all these people together and train and such. Ron, I wouldn't say Ron didn't do anything. I can't remember him doing anything particularly helpful, but at least he wasn't being like a bitch throughout Goblet of Fire, because Harry's name was in the Goblet of Fire, even though there was no way Harry himself could have done that. So he's just being a bitch in the 4th one. Then you just got other characters, like more adult characters, starting this Order of Phoenix to help attack Voldemort. And then, of course, you got that battle in the Ministry of Magic. Dumbledore versus Voldemort. That's just iconic. And, yeah, I feel like that was a good, dark movie, but it also had balance and knew what to keep dark and mysterious, what knew to keep it more friendly, more lighthearted. It was just a really well-balanced film that had a good grasp of what it wanted to do and how it wanted to do it.
It stayed pretty dark for most of it.
Yeah. But there's some lighter parts, like stupid romance with Cho Chang.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I remember.
But that's not a good part of that film at all. I don't think.
I think that's a very
It was-
forgettable part.
It was extremely forgettable.
Yeah.
And Cho Chang isn't at all like a character in the series, except for that romance with Harry, which doesn't make sense. But I like the 5th film too. I mean, I think like Bellatrix Lestrange is just great in that. She scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Another reason why
Politics of Train just
Another reason why I
Yeah.
liked Order of the Phoenix, because I think it was like the really first one to actually deal with consequences from a previous film, because Chamber of Secrets just did like its own thing. Prisoner of Azkaban, again, own thing. Goblet of Fire, Sirius Black is sort of back for a little bit, but not really. But like Order of the Phoenix, it's like the death of what's the name of the Hufflepuff guy that died during the
Cedric Diggory.
Cedric Diggory.
The 4th movie.
They talked about like his death a little bit, and they actually deal with the sort of like the immediate aftermath of Voldemort coming back, and like the Mentor starting to turn to Voldemort's side, and
That's where Cho Chang comes from. Is
Yeah. She was Ravenclaw. It wasn't
Ravenclaw.
wasn't she friends with Cedric Diggory?
Yeah.
She was friends with Cedric. She was really close with Cedric. They were dating, I believe.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like they
Yeah.
might have even been dating.
They were dating.
Which,
yeah.
come on, Harry, like don't steal a dead guy's girl.
Yeah, don't be the rebound guy.
I don't care. He plays Edward from Twilight. You don't do a guy dirty like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the 5th movie a lot too. Like I said, I think the 1st is my favorite. Second's my second favorite. 3rd is not my 3rd favorite. It's actually despite it being the most critically acclaimed, I think the third is my least favorite. It just doesn't do much for me. And I think Cuarón directed that one, and I really don't like the way he took the series. He took it to like a Halloween movie to me, like a good Halloween movie, but it was Harry Potter. I didn't want to watch a Halloween movie when I was watching Harry Potter. I wanted to watch Harry Potter, and yeah, I mean the atmosphere in it like was good for a Halloween movie, but not for Harry Potter. It doesn't feel like any of the other films. I think that's why a lot of people really like it. But when I look at it in the totality of the series, I don't. Fourth one I think I liked the fourth one. I like the battle. The girls from that one school, that all girls magic school.
Yeah.
They were nice to have.
Yeah, nice. Let's go with that.
Yeah, they were
No.
good. They were a good
Yeah.
addition because plot.
Mm-hmm.
No other reason than plot. It's just I'm all about plot. You know?
No,
Of
of course, yeah. We're just gonna go with that for now. I'm gonna say though that I'm gonna add in real quick that I think that The Goblet of Fire was my second favorite film, and exactly what you said. I like that they had that addition of the all girls school. I like the fact that they included more of the universe.
And the other school with Victor
'Cause-
Crumb.
Too bad we
And,
never
yeah.
see any of those two schools again
Right,
afterwards.
but I think that's what makes it unique and special is that it combines Harry's struggle with Voldemort, but it also combines it includes more of the universe. It includes a Triwizard Tournament. It includes a competition among schools, dangerous events, great battles, weird romances, with Harry and Harry and Hermione kind of having like what is portrayed to be a thing, which is kind of funny because it looks like a classic press conference where they take something out of context and just kind of throw it into the wizarding press.
Well,
And it's just really, I just think that I think it isn't rated high enough, and it's not given as much credit as it is.
while the fifth one is like the darkest one, I think in the series, it's just a very dark film the whole time. The fourth one does a pretty good job. It's more, I would say, it's more gray.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, maybe some of you watching are thinking, I have no idea what that means. I kind of don't have any idea what that means, but it's just the best descriptive word I can come up with right now. And I think it did a very good job of portraying that. I just like the challenges they did too. It was cool. But sixth movie, not very good. What happened? Not much. Dumbledore. That scene where Dumbledore is drinking, the stuff that's
Yeah.
really painful. I just imagine somebody having really bad like strep throat, and it was just not very. It wasn't a fun scene.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a scary scene. It was just
There was a
just
jump
there,
scare.
and that was kind of the climax of the movie, I think. And the sixth one really didn't do it for me. The sixth one might be my least favorite, actually. And yeah.
No, I would definitely say I think that I wouldn't say that like the Half-Blood Prince was my least favorite, but I would say that that my least favorite would have to be the first part of the Deathly Hallows.
I was
because
going to
it's
say
like-
that one
yeah.
might be my second least favorite. I also don't like that. I've already mentioned this. The third one, I just didn't like the atmosphere very much. I hate when they split movies into two
Oh,
films,
Yeah.
or three, like The Hobbit, which was The Hobbit, make one movie out, it would have been great. But
Yeah.
anyway, same with like Hunger Games did it. But yeah, seventh Harry Potter. There's just never going to be enough in that first movie to make it very exciting because, the writer didn't write a climax for the middle of that book.
Yeah.
There might be still an okay rising action to it, but like when you just make that an entire movie, yeah, seven part one just doesn't do it for me. There's not a lot happens that's really exciting if you look at all of the other Harry Potters.
Yeah.
Even the sixth one, more happens. So the sixth one was not very exciting to me.
And that's what annoyed, and so for me, the one thing that the Half-Blood Prince did that was at least intriguing to me was that it introduced Snape a little bit more. And I began to see a little bit more of Snape because Snape is,
So
spoiler alert, Half-Blood Prince. But
That's a good
see that.
line when Snape says that. I'm not gonna do his voice. That's actually a tough one.
Not gonna do Alan Rickman.
Yeah, Alan Rickman's a tough one to.
Yeah, legendary man.
But-
R.I.P.
Yeah, that's a good line when he says, "I'm Half-Blood Prince." Now that I'm talking about it, 7.1 might be my least favorite because it's even a little more unmemorable, I think. And then to move on to one we've already talked about, your favorite. The reason that I like but don't love 7.2, the end of the series, I think it was really well done, like great cinematography, like everything about the filmmaking was great. Like it looks great. Everything about that is awesome. And this is not often that this happens where I blame the writer of the series, the book series, which would be J.K. Rowling, for messing up the series. But I hate that Harry's alive. Harry should be dead. You know, when he kind of dies, and then he sees Dumbledore, and Dumbledore's like, "Oh, you're not actually dead," and here's some really elaborate reason why that is going to take you reading over forms for about 6 hours to finally kind of get a grasp of, but still not completely understand. I kind of understand why Harry died with the whole Voldemort taking his blood, or why he didn't die with Voldemort taking his blood and everything, but it's still really just there. I think Rowling couldn't find a good enough way to have Harry be a Horcrux and not die, but she really didn't want Harry to die, so she didn't have him die. And actually, a theory I have is that Rowling, when she started writing it, and it kind of gets, later you find out that Harry is a Horcrux. I think she planned that Harry was going to die, and then I think all the movies came out. It got really big. Everybody loved Harry Potter, and she was like, well, "Crap, I can't kill Harry," you know, But I think she should have. I just think that. I mean, it's just they didn't want to kill Harry because a lot of fans would have been mad, but Dumbledore says the part of the reason Harry lives, according to the books at least, is because Harry was willing to sacrifice himself. I think that sacrifice doesn't mean much and is completely overshadowed when he just comes back to life. Who cares? Obviously, Harry didn't know that he was going to come back to life and he thought he had to die, but it's so much more memorable if he actually dies. And I think Harry Potter would have actually been like literature that people would have read. Maybe not in school because there's so many pages, but it would have been, I mean, I'm a big fan of everybody dying in Shakespeare's plays, but I really think that Harry should have died, and that's why I don't like the second one as much as some of the others.
I just got a couple things. First one, yeah, I think you're kind of right saying J.K. Rowling probably changed how she wanted Harry to end his story because
and I have no basis of saying that. It's just a theory.
Actually, there is some sort of basis because J.K. Rowling admitted that she originally wanted Harry and Hermione to get together, but due to personal reasons, she ended with Hermione and Ron together, and she said she did kind of regret that. So that probably is a basis for the ending being changed.
I want to just add on that also, I understand where the theory's coming from, and I agree a lot with what you said, but I think that's one of the classic ways how we see how filmmaking and writing just, when you try to combine them together, there's going to be creative differences, and there's going to be popularity of the film versus a book. Because it's you take a book and you've got however many pages to write as much as you want and to write as much as you dare, and there's no limit. Well, it's every movie you've got a 3-hour span to try to fit in.
Or 3.5, or 3 hours and 45 for The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
And so I think that we talk about those differences between the books and the movies, and we see just where we're just what's going to make great. There's a difference between great, I think, what makes a book great and what makes a film great. And I think that is
actually
a difference.
I kind of want to connect to what you're saying because I just thought of something. Because the movie version, it's your typical chosen one story because there's this prophecy about a kid who goes through certain things his parents went through this many battles with the Dark Lord, and then he has to go through this and this before being the Dark Lord. But in the book, there's this theory that's pretty much been confirmed at this point that the prophecy could have actually either been about Harry or Neville Longbottom because there are details in the books that aren't really expanded or touched upon in the movies. And I think if they did that in the movies, for the part 2, they could have actually let Harry dies a Horcrux, but then have Neville Longbottom because he stands up and like talks back to Voldemort when Voldemort returns with Harry's dead body, and then like Neville could like just suddenly become a sort of chosen one because he went this transition from nerdy, stupid kid to actually kind of badass with that Gryffindor sword, and take Voldemort by surprise to actually end up killing him. I thought that was something that the movies could have actually done to
They
make
should
it
have.
a lot
They
better.
should have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I say, if Harry actually died, it would be the ultimate sacrifice, and there would be people like crying in theaters. But that's good when you invoke emotions from people. And a lot of people act like it's not like that. That we shouldn't. If people are leaving the theater really, really sad, I mean, you did a good job. You put them into that world, and you made them feel something.
I agree. You want to make them feel something.
It's
You wanna
not.
make
It's
them
not
feel
going to
like,
ruin. It's not going to ruin their life that a fictional character died. I mean, at the end
Actually,
of the day,
from that perspective, you could say that the MCU has actually done a far better job than Harry Potter because
the Marvel universe.
yeah, because for Infinity War, like even though
But they're all
they
gonna
know
come back.
they're going to come back, they did end up
Yeah,
with
but they're
killing
gonna
all
make
those
something.
people.
But
But they
it-
still did it in a way where people were actually were sort of crying in the theaters. Like I knew I was crying when spoiler alerts, Spider-Man died. Yes. Okay. Okay. Bye. Sorry about that. But yeah, so that's one way where I think the
I don't
MCU
like
knew what to
superhero
do with
movies, but
Harry Potter.
So yeah, and that's actually something I liked about the Marvel movies is that
I
they
don't like
had
any of them.
like spoiler alert, they have the bad guys
When?
win, and that's the thing is because like we don't expect that. We're always expecting the hero to win, to save the day. But when you change up the narrative and you put the villain actually winning and stuff like that, I think people are upset and they're just like, oh my gosh. Because I remember sitting next to our friend Jake in the theaters, and Jake is just like, all these guys. But when he sees Spider-Man dice, he's like, oh frick, that's messed up. And it's just like it makes you think. It makes you like think about the plot, about like why did this happen, why does this thing? Because it's like if the hero just wins and it's like there's a challenge, but the hero ultimately overcomes, you're just following the typical narrative. Oh, it's a happy ending, and you leave the theater happy. But it's like
So
you don't leave with the full range of emotions like you were talking about, which I think great filmmaking does.
Yeah, I just think anytime a character dies and comes back, they didn't die. I don't care anymore. Like Harry, he thought he had to make a sacrifice. So in a way, he showed a lot of courage and bravery, which are the traits of Gryffindor. But it still doesn't do it to me because do it for me. I mean, it just nothing really happened. He was laying on the ground for a little bit. Got to see his friend Dumbledore again, which I would do.
Well, yeah, and I think it's tough because from my perspective, I see where you're coming from, and a lot of why is Harry still alive? Why is Harry, why does Harry go into this whole like why is there such a vague description of why?
So and
Well,
that's
there's an
that's
instance,
part of my
and that's-
problem is that I understand I kind of understand the description for it, but it's so convoluted that it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be so convoluted. With the most important part of the series is that Harry's still alive, kind of, or one of the most important things in it is that Harry's still alive. We should understand why. It shouldn't be something that I have to read about online from fans that have watched the movie 35 times to figure out why. But my big issue with it is just as a plot device, if Harry died. So not only, it would be easier to just have him die, Voldemort kills Harry, kills the last Horcrux, now Voldemort can actually be killed, Neville kills him,
Yeah.
you said.
Well,
Boom.
yeah.
It's over, and Harry Potter is the greatest hero of all time. Now it's just a good movie series that has 5 really good films.
And that's what I think that also would have been beneficial at some point of him dying. Because I think ultimately the reason they did it is they want to create the ending that's at the most justice, where Harry kills Voldemort. And, I thought it was And to be honest, I like the dry sense of humor where he's just like when he gets the Elder Wand, and you're just like, oh yeah, well I killed Voldemort, and then Voldemort this and this and this. Anyway, he's like, yeah, it's mine. And he just kind of like casually holds the most powerful wand, and he just throws it off the edge, as if like and that's that ultimate sacrifice of saying, he has all the power and ambition in the world with that wand, but he just throws it off because he'd rather have his friend, or like there was a sense of like, I guess there was a sense of like that he just was like he was humbling himself and kind of like he was like taking himself away from that sort of that step he could have taken. But I think that what you could have also done with Harry's death is you could have revealed the greatness of the other characters like Neville. You could have even thrown Ron and Hermione into adding something into that. I mean, maybe it would have strayed away from the book, but it would have. But there, you could have added more to that. I think you could have added more of like Harry would be a great hero, but you could also talk about Neville, and you could introduce what you talked about in the books.
Yeah. I see what you mean. I mean, like I say, Harry should be dead. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Would have been a lot better.
Okay.
Even though most people disagree with me, most people are happy that Harry didn't die or half died and came back,
All right. So, let's see. All right. I think we talked about like the big stuff that we kind of started talking about earlier. So I think to finish off this little video, let's go with favorite character. Favorite character picked throughout the entire movie series. Let's start with Patrick.
I can't remember his name, but he's the one with the scratch on his forehead. Harry Potter, I think, is his name. Yeah, I like Harry Potter. And I think he should be dead. But I like Harry Potter the most. I mean, we get to know him better than any other character. And, I mean, he was willing to make that sacrifice at the end. Just would have been a lot better if it was a real sacrifice. But, yeah, I think he's a great character. And, like, I don't even know who Daniel Radcliffe is. That guy is Harry Potter. And always will be. And there's not many other characters, or many other actors in the world that are just a character. Maybe Mark Hamill is Luke Skywalker. But I think that was just because he wasn't as good of an actor. But Daniel Radcliffe, great actor. And he's just Harry Potter.
Andre?
So I like Daniel. I like Harry Potter a lot, but just for the sake of changing it, I'm gonna say Snape. And the reason why he's one of my favorite characters in the series is because there's a dark and mysterious side, but at the same time very alluring about him. And he's very he's captivating because throughout every movie he has a part of it, but his part always varies from having a major role to a minor role. And I just think Alan Rickman just did such an amazing job with the films, creating this character that really at the end you see, has a good side to him. Because the entire time you remember in the first movie where you're Snape's the most terrifying guy you can think of. He's that polarizing teacher that just Harry thinks is out to get him, and he just has that reputation. But it's there's so many little things that he does to help Harry and does to stop things from happening, and just little things he does that you don't really notice, but when they're captive. And the reason I think I like the second movie is that they highlight that in the Deathly Hallows. And the point is you see these little things and you see how this all begins to add up, and then you just see Snape is a really there's a lot to his character. And the point is that I just think with Harry there's a lot to develop, but he's also the protagonist. I mean, the series is titled Harry Potter, and so I just think Snape has such an interesting thing. I think there's a lot of characters where it's just you kind of see what you get, and there's so much more you could go into them, but they just weren't as developed. I just think that with Snape there was just he was this polarizing figure that ended up being, something that helped Harry get to where he was along the way and kind of contributed to this whole chosen concept. And I just think that there's just something that's really interesting about Snape.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like Snape a lot too. He's a very good character.
Yeah.
It's not many characters I think are bad, other than early Malfoy. This is my one complaint about the first and second movies is Malfoy isn't the best character. He's just a whiny little kid.
And into me, so I do have one character, but I have another character that's actually a really close second. But let's start with my number one. Hermione Granger. Kind of an obvious one, but she's a Muggle-born girl, and I think in the book both her parents are dentists or something like that. So she kind of comes from this family that's like more or less normal and such, but then like she enters this world of magic, and instead of like becoming freaked out because she's mudblood or Muggle born, she studies like 6 a.m. in the morning, goes through so many flashcards and such for all these tests, and just really tries to become just a great wizard and great friend to her friends. Great speaking, but that's an obvious choice, obviously. But second close pick, second really close, is actually surprisingly Draco Malfoy. Now hear me out. Yeah, in the early movies, he's a douchebag pretty much. He comes from this family that are dark wizards, and obviously that's going to rub off on him. But as we get closer to the end of the series, he sort of becomes this sort of silent, tragic character because you see him having doubts about his family and his place because even though we really don't remember much about the sixth film, I remember that he was sort of given the task of trying to kill Dumbledore, but he obviously couldn't go through with it, so Snape had to do it in order to keep his cover up. And then at the end of part 2, his family takes him with them and just like silently flees, and you can tell Malfoy doesn't really want to flee, but he's tied to his family. He's got to go with them, and I think at the end, he sort of becomes this silent, tragic character that I feel like people overlook sometimes.
Yeah, I think he does get a lot better as the film goes on because he actually starts to be a person and like you can understand his actions. In the first few movies, granted, he's like a little kid and he just hates Harry, and you really don't see any reason why other than that. Like his dad kind of teaches him to hate him, which I suppose is kind of a valid reason, but in like a little kid like that, but it's still just like it's not very appealing to me when Malfoy is just a jerk for no good reason. He's a jerk to everybody too, even his friends, you know. And he's a jerk to Ron and Harry when they take the Polyjuice potion and become his friends, and like he's being a jerk to them. It's like, why is this kid such a jerk? You know, just no. He's not even like the school bully type of jerk. There's just nothing to him other than jerk.
Yeah.
You know, in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think the thing about
and then Hermione
Malfoy,
punched him.
yeah, and which is
Changed
a
him a
great,
lot.
which is I think one of the funnier moments and a very memorable moment to me when that happened. That was pretty great. But I think that I think what we see in Malfoy is we see that kind of like, if you ever had that moment when growing up, you have that moment where you do with what you're taught versus what your heart kind of feels, and like I think what happens is that Malfoy kind of realizes that his actions are bad and kind of realizes that he's been a jerk and he kind of realizes all this stuff. But I think the tragedy of it is that he was so wound up with what he's been taught to believe. And, I think we see where loyalty gets kind of twisted because he's loyal to his family. Like, one of the traits he has is he's loyal to his family, but he's a jerk. He's a jerk. And he's a jerk to Harry, he's a jerk to his friends, he's just a jerk to everyone. And he's beginning to see the consequence of that, of what he thinks is the right thing, but it's just a jerkish attitude that he has. And it's just, when he comes to realize that it's like, wow, I've been involved with all the Stark Wizard, I'm on the wrong side, I'm doing this stuff. By the time he comes to
I don't know if he's on the wrong side.
Well, it's...
I'm joking.
But yeah, but the point
they
is...
were cooler.
Yeah.
The bad guys.
Yeah.
They were cooler. As always.
Well, on that note, that's sort of our Harry Potter discussion. Thanks for coming on. And this is Groot. This is a Slytherin. And this is a Hufflepuff. And we say, Umbridge is just the worst.